What's up, everyone? Steve here with Climb the Pocket. I'm here with Ryan McGinley. You can find him at Bootleg Fantasy on Twitter. Find me at Steve 2.0. Welcome back to the page. Hope you're enjoying our content. We got a good special one for you today. Quarterback tiered rankings. Everyone loves those tiered rankings to kind of differentiate where you should take quarterbacks in the draft and which players are at a completely different level than other players. So we're going to go ahead and get into these rankings. But first, let's say hi to Ryan.
Hey, Steve. I'm excited because we now have a schedule. We are now putting out consistent content, and we might get a plaque soon. We just passed 400 subs on YouTube, so things are getting hot and heavy. And I'm just excited to talk football again because quarantine day 60 is not feeling great. But I mean, I got a little escape with you, Steve. So.
Yeah, definitely. I like coming on here every week. Like I said, we're posting a video every single Thursday throughout the off season. You're not going to want to miss it. And if you're not subscribed right now, this is a really good opportunity for you to subscribe. We actually have a giveaway going. We're giving away a signed JuJu Smith-Schuster mini helmet. You can see it on the screen right now. One of a kind collector's edition, definitely signed by JuJu Smith-Schuster. Comes with all the certifications and whatnot. It's a real signature on this helmet. It's JuJu Smith-Schuster. It's a really cool player, and this is a real valuable item. All you gotta do is subscribe to the channel, follow the rest of the directions in the description below, and definitely, I would want to check that out. Leave a comment, like the video, subscribe to the channel now. You're not going to want to miss any of our content. You're not going to want to miss out on that giveaway. We're going to have more in the future, but this is our first one. So go ahead and tell your friends. Free merch up in the air. So definitely subscribe. Let's go ahead and get into the video. Like I said, we're going over tiered quarterback rankings. So we're going to go ahead and start with my tier one. We're using this kind of tiered software over here. We can kind of drag and drop our quarterbacks into the tiers, so it's very visually appealing. I'll go ahead and start with tier one. In my tier one, I have Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson in that order. No surprise, a lot of people are going to have them flip-flopped all offseason long. People are going to prefer Lamar. I prefer Mahomes. I really see him having an MVP season again, possibly throwing for 50 touchdowns. Just a big season. He was injured last year, didn't show his full potential, still had a really good season. Obviously, Lamar was the MVP, but I think there's no arguing. If you want to take one of these guys early in your draft, I don't think anyone would be arguing. I'm assuming your tier one looks pretty similar, Ryan.
Yeah, my tier one is the exact same. There's a caveat, though.
Here we go.
Lamar Jackson's efficiency for touchdowns last year was unbelievable, right? If you could have put that efficiency on Dak Prescott, he finishes his quarterback one. So the efficiency Lamar Jackson showed last year was off the charts. You can read more about that at Climb the Pocket. Our boy Draftleets put out a great article talking about like just TD regression, how much touchdowns affect fantasy quarterbacks, and it's definitely something you should read up before you just dive into somebody because they had a huge year last year. That being said, he puts up running back numbers and he puts up quarterback numbers. If he regresses that much, he's still going to finish as a top 2 quarterback in my eyes. Like it's tough to say that he won't because at that point you're just being ignorant. Like he was electric last year. Sure, there's a full off season of scheming for Lamar Jackson, but can you really? We're going to find that out, and I'm willing to say it's going to be tough to figure him out this year. So he's still in tier one. And Pat Mahomes, I mean, he's got the best arm talent in the league. Some people are putting him as a top 10 quarterback all time based on talent alone already. Like, he's unbelievable. The weapons are the same. He added a better running back. Things are going to get better. Is there a Super Bowl hangover? I don't think so.
No way.
I think Andy Reid is ready to step on some throats a little bit. Like he got his Super Bowl, and now he can cement himself as one of the greatest coaches of all time, which 2 years ago would have been laughed at. And I think Pat Mahomes is going to thrive again in that offense. So of course, he's in tier one.
Yeah, like I said, can't really argue with either of these picks. So no. Lamar or Patrick Mahomes on your team are definitely going to get it done. Like Ryan mentioned, climbthepocket.com, we got tons of good articles up there. We're dropping them daily. So if you're a subscriber here and you like our content, you're definitely going to like what our writers are putting out. So go over to the website right now, check those out. I'm going to move over to tier 2 for my quarterbacks. It's a 3-person tier for me right here. It goes Dak Prescott, Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray. I think a lot of people would actually agree with this tier as well. Dak Prescott showed last year he could be a top 5 quarterback. Russell Wilson continues to prove how he's a top quarterback in the game, especially in fantasy. Over the last couple of years in the draft, fantasy drafts, he's kind of been disrespected. But I think this year people are definitely not looking away when taking Russell Wilson. And then I have Kyler Murray. A lot of people have him as a breakout candidate for this year. And, I'm in that boat too. I do have my speculations. Last year, their offensive line was pretty bad. He was sacked 48 times. They did draft an offensive tackle in the first or the third round, but they kind of lean towards the defense. So I think they're probably still going to have some, a lot of time on the field as far as garbage time goes. And they just got DeAndre Hopkins. That's definitely an increase. More people to throw to. They have a really good, good receiving weapons. Kenyon Drake's a really good offensive weapon. He was quarterback 8 last year with a bad offense line and a bad team overall. So you can really only go up from here. And it's the second year in Cliff Kingsbury's offense. So, if they really want to, take that next step in his system, I can see that happening. Kyler Murray is going to, be the leader of that team. The only other rookie QBs to finish in the top 12 were actually Cam, Andrew Luck, RG3, Dak, and Russell Wilson. So, to be a part of that group definitely proves that there's a lot of potential for this guy, and why not this year with all the weapons they added? And the offense is definitely going to be probably playing from behind some games, even though they stacked up the defense in the draft. I think the defense is still going to be subpar, so I can definitely see them whipping the ball around a lot. And his rushing floor alone, last year he had over 500 rushing yards, and I think that goes up again this year. I think he gets over 600 yards, and like you mentioned about Lamar Jackson, rushing is just, for a quarterback, it's kind of unfair in fantasy. A lot of people have talked about it. A lot of people would like to play 6-point passing touchdowns to kind of even it out. I don't usually play that way, but standard would be 4-point, which is why the rushing ability is just a huge play. So having Kyler up here, definitely puts him on that level. He could have a top 2 fantasy season, a Lamar type season. Maybe not that high. Lamar had a historic year last year, but I think Kyler Murray has all the potential. If everything goes right and he really finds that connection with DeAndre Hopkins, I think the ceiling is the roof.
The ceiling is a roof, to quote Michael Jordan.
So those are my tier 2 quarterbacks. Ends it out with Kyler Murray. Let's go over to your tier 2 quarterbacks. Who do you got?
Right. So mine are very, very similar to yours, Steve. But you left somebody out, right?
Okay.
Somebody with a chip on their shoulder. And if you know me, you think you know where I'm going with this. And it's not the case. So my tier 2, Russell Wilson, Dak Prescott, Kyler Murray, Deshaun Watson. And I think Deshaun Watson, finally, I know he lost DeAndre Hopkins, right? And I know that Bill O'Brien seems inept just generally as a coach, but I kind of like how they retooled the offense a little bit. Like, it's fun to point fingers and laugh at Bill O'Brien for what he did, but they brought in a couple wide receivers to replace DeAndre Hopkins. They brought in David Johnson, and if David Johnson is 80% of prime David Johnson, their offense is going to be so much more balanced. It's going to allow them to kind of let everything breathe. I think Deshaun Watson had to force some things because their offense wasn't as solid as it was the year before. I feel like having a guy that can catch passes out of the backfield, a guy that they're going to hand the ball off to a ton, is going to just change the look of defenses. It's not going to force Deshaun Watson to he was just targeting DeAndre Hopkins last year. Like, most of his guys seemingly were hurt at least half the season. Like, I feel like Kenny Stills and Will Fuller couldn't figure it out to stay healthy. So I think Deshaun Watson's going to be solid this year. He's going to throw for over 4,000 yards. He's going to flirt with 30 touchdowns again. And if he can cut down on picks, he's going to fall where he's fallen before. And I have no problem taking him with those guys. Also, quarterbacks are pretty deep this year. You're going to see that as we go along. I feel like this is the deepest quarterbacks have been maybe in my life. Like, I feel like everybody has their guy, or they have their guy in the wings. Mm-hmm. So it's very interesting to see how people approach this year. So having somebody like Deshaun Watson who can scramble, his first 3 years, he's got 14 rushing touchdowns. That's huge, because in most leagues that you play the right rules and passing touchdowns are 5, you get an extra point if he runs the ball in. So he's not going to have the sure-handed guy like DeAndre Hopkins, So maybe he scrambles a little bit more and gets a couple more rushing touchdowns. So he's firmly in my tier 2.
Yeah, Deshaun Watson's a gamer. He's a winner, and like that adds a whole other effect, even in fantasy. Just the fact that he's gonna execute where other quarterbacks might fail, and
For sure.
Deshaun Watson has that trait with him. I don't disagree with your ranking on him. Just I think he was right on that edge for me, in the fact that he lost Deshaun Watson or DeAndre Hopkins. It was just a lot for me. There was a lot of numbers correlating between Deshaun Watson's fantasy or just success on the field with DeAndre Hopkins and then with him off. So I'm interested to see how that plays out. Maybe throughout the offseason, he could move out for me as we hear a little more through training camp, whether he's meshing with the receivers and whatnot. But like I said, Deshaun Watson's a gamer. He can make it happen. I wouldn't be surprised if he finished as a tier 2 quarterback, like as you have him. So let's go ahead and move on to tier 3. This is a little larger for me. Starting it off is Josh Allen. Then I have Deshaun Watson. I've got Carson Wentz. I've got Drew Brees. I've got Matt Ryan. I've got Matt Stafford. Got Tom Brady. And that ends it off for me. So a lot of these quarterbacks, like you said, it's going to be very deep this year. Tier 1 through 3, you'd be pretty happy to have any of these guys. And the big difference is, and it's going to be interesting to watch, is are you going to go get one of those tier 1 quarterbacks? They can be a league winner for you, but you can get Deshaun Watson, like you said, probably in like the 6th round. I've seen Carson Wentz go in like round 9 before in a lot of mock drafts. That's crazy. He's got top 5 potential easily in fantasy if he's healthy all year, which has obviously been his downfall. But if he's healthy all year, we've seen what he can do. He had an MVP caliber season, and if you can get him late, what incredible value. And a lot of these guys, I see the same. Matt Stafford had a really good season going last year, and he got hurt. Imagine what Kenny Golladay would be if Stafford stayed healthy all year. Drew Brees, obviously been doing it for years. Josh Allen had a top 5 quarterback season last year, does a lot on the ground. A lot of these guys are similar. Obviously, Tom Brady in here is maybe speculative that he's going to have a decent season with actual weapons, because the Patriots never gave him actual weapons. He always worked with what he had. But now he's got Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Keyshawn Vaughn, Rob Gronkowski. You can't forget him. And it's going to be interesting to see if he can actually live up to that. So I think, if anything, Tom Brady might belong in tier 4, but I'm like not high on him this year, but I'm excited. So like the excitement alone moved him up into tier 3 for me. I don't know if you agree with any of these, but we can check out your tier 3 for your quarterbacks.
So I purposely did not look at Steve's tier at all. So
all
before this video, we talked and we made sure that we had a similar amount of tiers, just so we could have a video that didn't look ridiculous. So in my tier 3, Carson Wentz, Matt Ryan, Josh Allen, Drew Brees, Matt Stafford. Everyone knows how I feel about Carson Wentz. I think if he's healthy, I expect him to be healthy. I expect him to be a top 5 talent. But I can't get away from the fact that he has not been healthy. I have fought the good fight for Carson Wentz. I have done enough Twitter battles with random people with 12 followers and a We Dem Boys Twitter picture to know that there's some credibility to the fact that he's gotten hurt a couple times. I think that they're trying to make the offense better for him. The argument against Wentz, away from him being injury prone, is the fact that he hasn't been able to target guys downfield, right? He hasn't had the guys to target downfield. Deshaun Jackson, in the one game he played with him, 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. They added Jalen Reagor, who to me looks like baby Steve Smith on tape. He looks that explosive. He can play inside and out. Zach Ertz is back, of course. Alshon Jeffrey is going to be back. They added a couple guys late in the draft that are going to be speed demons. Like they added Quez Watkins, who ran a 4.25, I think, which was like the second fastest at the combine. They added John Hightower, who was disgusting out of Boise State. Miles Sanders is going to have a full year. We're not going to try the Jordan Howard experiment that the Bears couldn't figure out, that the Eagles knew kind of worked, but like it makes your offense one-dimensional. The Eagles are mimicking the best offense in the NFL right now. They're trying to mimic what the Chiefs are doing because, one, it worked, and two, they're tired of guys like me going on Twitter yelling about how slow the offense looks. So I'm excited for Carson Wentz. I think the sky's the limit for him. I know he's in my 3rd tier. This tier is pretty much the guys where I draw the line of I'm cool with them being my only quarterback. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I get beyond this, I want another solid quarterback on my team. So that's where my line's drawn. There's an argument against Drew Brees in this. I think he hasn't been as, I guess, dynamic of a passer as he was previously. Like, he didn't hit 5,000 yards for the first time in a while. Like, the run game is solid. Taysom Hill seemingly wants to ruin everyone's day by having a rushing touchdown every once in a while. So Drew Brees, I can understand if you want another quarterback with Drew Brees, but he's going to be solid every single week. So that's my tier, Steve.
Drew Brees is probably, I feel like he's one of the harder quarterbacks to actually figure out in fantasy every single, at least the last couple of years. You never know. They're a winning team too, He can hand the ball out very well and be very happy with it, but we know what he can do with the ball too. He's an incredible passer. He's one of the best of all time. But in fantasy, it's tough, I think I'd rather have in your tier everyone else besides Drew Brees.
Yeah, no, that's 100% how I feel. Just because, Drew Brees, if they are, I don't know, 12-2 or however many games they need to be to clinch the division, why play if you're Drew Brees? You know what I mean? There's a solid possibility Jameis Winston comes in to get some time,
Let's go. Let's get that.
Personally, I think it'd be hilarious. I'd love it. I mean, if Jameis Winston comes in and throws for 450 yards and 4 touchdowns, who knows,
Yeah,
but
that'd be fun.
it's tough for me to say that I'd be fine with just Drew Brees on my team, but for the first 5 or so weeks, if Drew Brees is my only quarterback, just to have guys that I think are flyers at the end of my bench, and I don't have another quarterback taking on my roster spot, I'm probably fine.
Yeah. All right, tier 4, another big one for me here. We're going to go with Aaron Rodgers, Daniel Jones, Kirk Cousins, Jared Goff, Ben Roethlisberger. Okay? This is my tier 4. The big one here, obviously, it's a big story this offseason. It's Aaron Rodgers. I've refused to knock him the last couple of years, even though he's been on a slight decline, technically, but not really, because his last 2 fantasy finishes where he played 16 games was QB9 and QB7. It's not bad, but people continue to knock him. He just doesn't have a very consistent outcome for fantasy. He'll have a splash week every once in a while where he'll get 25 points. But he's got a lot of games where, especially last season, he just didn't look like the same old Aaron Rodgers. And whether that was the weapons or his health or another issue, or maybe the team just wanted to run the ball more, he's not the same fantasy producer he was. This guy's had multiple fantasy quarterback 1 finishes in his career, but those days are gone. So now he's in this group, and it's kind of disrespectful because I am a Packers fan to see him in a group with Kirk Cousins, Daniel Jones, Jared Goff. I'm okay with putting him in there with Big Ben, but seeing him with those guys, it's pretty tough. It's tough to swallow. But the story is, and the story of the offseason is the Packers draft. They didn't draft a wide receiver. They got an undrafted free agent. How is that going to go? We'll see. Those guys are always flyers, but Aaron Rodgers, and this is a fun stat going around, he's thrown 1 touchdown pass to someone drafted in the first round in his career. That's incredible. 1 touchdown pass in his career to someone in the first round. It seems like the team is going to go to a more run-heavy offense. They're a pretty run-heavy offense last year with Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams, but they added A.J. Dillon. He's a bruiser. A lot of people are down on Aaron Jones because he's going to take away some of the work. And as a Packers fan, I'm cool with them, running the ball as long as that's how they win. It seems like Matt LaFleur kind of wants to do what they're doing in Tennessee. It seems like he wants to keep that game plan and bring it right over to Green Bay. I'm cool with that if it works, but it doesn't work for Aaron Rodgers in fantasy. A positive for him, though, is Davante Adams was injured last year. I think they get back kind of on their track like they were a few years ago where Davante Adams was a top wide receiver in fantasy, leading the league in touchdowns. I can see him doing that again this year. He's my wide receiver 2 right now this year. I've been switching between 2 and 3 with him and Tyreek, but I think he's my wide receiver 2 right now. I'm getting higher on him. But another negative is like I said, they just don't have any wide receivers. And, a lot of people say, what about Allen Lazard? What about Allen Lazard?
I think we know about Allen Lazard.
Yeah, in his last 8 games last year, when he was technically the wide receiver 2 on Green Bay after MVS went down, he was wide receiver 49. He was not anything special. Just the fact that he even had 1 good week, people were like, all right, wide receiver 2, Aaron Rodgers, let's get him. He was not good. A lot, there's stories out there that him and Rodgers are really close, and maybe they're gaining a connection. And man, I hope to see it because Lazard he's a pretty good physical specimen, and if he works things out, Aaron Rodgers throwing you the ball, that's not a bad thing. And maybe he becomes a good receiver, but that's nothing to rely on. So like having him down in tier 4, I think this is probably the right spot. He's like the first player in my tier 4, so he's on the line. If I hear things in the offseason like the Packers' offense is really clicking, especially in the passing game, maybe he can move up there and I can swap him with Tom Brady, or he's pretty much equivalent to Tom Brady. But he's not really someone I'd trust. He's someone I'd grab if I was going with like a late QB strategy in a draft. Maybe I'd take Aaron Rodgers. I'd be comfortable with that name on my roster. But he's definitely, you're not taking him as early as you've taken him in past drafts.
Yeah, I mean, the wide receiver thing it's disrespectful. Being in a situation where I understand it, Steve. Like if the Eagles went into this draft needing a wide receiver and didn't address it at all, I'd be slighted if I was Carson Wentz. Like the draft for Rodgers was pretty much the complete opposite of what he was looking for. They drafted essentially the guy who's going to take his job. That's the plan, and they didn't help him at all. I mean, they didn't really address tight end. They didn't really address wide receiver. They got a large back who's got a lot of tread on the tires, seemingly too high in the draft. As an Aaron Jones guy, I think it's ridiculous. I mean, Aaron Jones did literally everything we asked him to do. Jamal Williams is a top end backup running back. I mean, for the longest time we were talking Jamal Williams versus Aaron Jones. Like, is it whose backfield is it? I mean, Aaron Jones took it last year, like we've been saying on climbthepocket.com. But the offense is going to be a brutal watch. Yeah. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. Rodgers is going to be efficient as ever. His completion percentage is going to be great. His QBR is going to be nice. His picks are going to be down under 8 probably again. Like, he'll probably have his 24-6 season with almost 4,000 yards. But he's not going to have the chance to have games where he puts up 35 for you. Like, and it's unfortunate. Unless Davante Adams breaks 2 passes, like, I don't see Aaron Rodgers being what we wanted him to be. And, like,
the Packers don't play ball like that either. In games last year where they were down, they got stomped. Like, those 49ers games, those are garbage time games, but the 49ers just literally did not let them score. Like, they aren't a team that does well on garbage time. So they're like a winning team. Last year, a lot of people said they were fraudulent. They were maybe fraudulent. Maybe the record wasn't as good as their team was, but they were like a winning team. They knew how to win the game. They didn't know how to stack stats, win games by stacking touchdowns and points. That's not how they won. And that's going to kind of go over to, or, move over to Aaron Rodgers, his stats and his fantasy numbers. Like, he's going to win games, but he might not put up fantasy numbers.
And that this year there's going to be those brutal points where Rodgers is, should Rodgers be benched next week? Like, by week 4 that's going to happen. Yeah. But I don't even think I've even talked about my tier 4.
No,
so
we'll get it.
So it's Brady, it's Rodgers, it's Danny Dimes, it's Big Ben. And honestly, these guys are they're good. They're solid quarterbacks. One of them will probably be on your waiver wire every once in a while. Like, these are the guys that are at the top of the wire. They're guys that you like playing when the matchup is plus, but like, you also like having another quarterback on your team. That's fine. Like, it's a strategy that works. Can Brady bump himself up with that offense? Yeah. Can Big Ben? Maybe. Like, Big Ben's, I don't love Big Ben this year. It's not really a surprise to anybody that, I would be slighting Big Ben being from the other side of Pennsylvania. But I don't love how they addressed running back, so it's going to be all on Big Ben. We don't know how he's rehabbing. We don't know what the deal is with JuJu. There's a lot of smoke, and there's always fire with stuff like that. Like, it doesn't seem like JuJu's coming back after next year. Is that going to be an issue? I don't think JuJu's the type of guy to make that an issue, but, like, maybe he does. And Eric Ebron was their big signing. They keep doing these retread tight ends that they're hoping spark a little bit. It's not exciting to me. I think the Steelers are a defensive-oriented team. I think they showed that last year. I think they're going to figure out how to get the ball moving on the ground. I mean, relying on Big Ben to throw the ball 40 times is not an effective way, especially because most of their wide receivers are young guys. Like JuJu, still a super young guy. He hasn't really been the one. Like last year, he was the one, but like I was throwing him passes. I don't love that. Like he's going to have adversity this year. How he comes back from that, I mean, it's up to JuJu. Chase Claypool, I don't like that draft pick. He's a big wide receiver who somehow ran a 40 quicker than his tape shows. There was before the combine, like people were talking about should he be a tight end, and I think he's a Quincy Enunwa type wide receiver.
Ooh, name drop.
You know what I mean? Like he's like a big guy that like doesn't wow me.
Yeah.
That could bite me in the end. Like I just see JJ Arcega-Whiteside when I see Chase Claypool.
He had so much promise. I watched him in the preseason last year. I was like, this guy's gonna ball. And man, I bet like, we could see the same thing.
Dude, it's so like Claypool. Don't love it. Deante Johnson. There's a lot of people talking up Deante Johnson.
Yeah.
There's some merit to it, but it's also a lot of this is who I'm sticking my flag in. And a lot of the fantasy community gets behind stuff like that, and the fantasy community then takes one person and makes them their sleeper. And I think that's happening with Deante Johnson. I like Deante Johnson.
Yeah.
I don't know if he is going to be the wide receiver one heir to JuJu if JuJu leaves. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what they're going to test this year. And if it doesn't work, it's going to hurt Big Ben. So
yeah, if I'm the Steelers this year, I play defense because our defense is great, and I run the ball. And I figure out how to run the ball often, and that's what I would do. Big Ben, he's going to be good. He's going to have his good passing games and whatnot. He'll probably still suck on the road because that's what he does.
Exactly.
But he's going to be a guy on the waiver wire. It's going to be interesting seeing guys like Big Ben and possibly Aaron Rodgers sitting on your waiver wire. It's a different time. It's a different time. But Daniel Jones, I see there as well. He actually had a pretty good season his first season. He played 13 games, finishes at QB 23, so not the best, but a lot of that was due to he fumbled the ball. Well, he fumbled the ball probably a lot more than 11 times, but he lost 11 fumbles. And if he can get that over with, over 30% of his games he started, he had 28-plus points. He had 280 rushing yards in that time period, too. So he's got upside for rushing floor and whatnot. He's just an interesting guy I wanted to touch on just because he's a guy that has a potential breakout candidate. He could be a top 10 quarterback if everything goes right for him. He definitely has the receiving weapons with Sterling Shepard, Golden Tate, Evan Engram, Darius Slayton, Saquon Barkley. Like, what more do you want? So I just want to touch on.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, I'm a huge Danny Dimes guy. Yeah. He was on, I mean, if he played all 16 games, he's on pace for 32 touchdowns. Like, I can't reiterate that enough. Like, as a rookie, he was on pace for 32 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. Did some of them come at the end of the game where it didn't matter as much? Who's to say? You know, as a big Danny Dimes guy, I mean, it could have been clutch TDs. Who knows? I mean, he had that solid game against the Bucs, but he's a solid new era quarterback where he's quick enough to be able to run the ball if he needs to. He's got the better. I mean, I'm willing to say he probably has better weapons than Eli probably ever had. I mean, it's close. It's close.
I think so.
Because Saquon is a game changer. I mean, if you have Saquon Barkley in the backfield, defenses are going to watch him first. So that's an absolute game changer. I love Darius Whiten. He's very similar to Golden Tate. I think he's going to learn a lot in the offseason. I think he's going to come back even better. Evan Engram, if he stays healthy, he's a top 5 tight end talent.
Oh, yeah. I love Evan Engram.
And, you know, Danny Dimes is in a division that's going to be putting up points.
It's a winnable division, you know?
Listen.
I'm just saying it's a winnable division. Out of all divisions, it's one of the most takeable.
Probably is.
You know?
It probably is. And, you know, Danny Dimes has a chip on his shoulder. He's got to outlast Baker Mayfield. So.
Oh, speaking of Baker Mayfield, we'll move on to my tier 5. My tier 5 it's a small tier. We got Ryan Tannehill, Baker Mayfield, and Teddy Bridgewater. All these other remaining guys are guys I didn't really feel like ranking. They could move up into tier 5. Tier 5 could grow. But tier 5 right now is these 3 guys. And speaking of Baker Mayfield, I'm just going to start off by saying I'm not a believer. Even though their O-line sucked last year, bottom third of the league, they had all the weapons last year. Obviously, it was OBJ's first year, Landry's second year. They had Chubb, Hunt, Njoku, but they really couldn't get anything rolling. Maybe it was the coaching staff, but a new head coach certainly doesn't help the offense progress unless they just click right away. Like I said, obviously their O-line got better, so that's definitely going to help them. But I think Baker Mayfield is not going to be a star in this league. And that's how I've kind of always felt. I maybe thought otherwise. His rookie season when he came in at the end of the season, he played pretty well. And that's why a lot of people were pretty high on him last year. I think a lot of people had him as like a top 6 quarterback in their rankings. And man, you got burned if you drafted him because he was on my waiver wire in a lot of my leagues all year long, and that will happen. But I just don't believe in Baker. I mean, OBJ, there's all this talk that, it's going to be my best season ever. I don't buy any of it. There's just too much with OBJ going on all the time. He could get traded at any second. It's just sketchy. I don't really know what the Browns are doing. They like to run the ball. They say they want to have a good defense, but it's never, hasn't been that great. They've got the guys there, but I don't know. I'm not a big Baker guy. He's in my tier 5 because I do see the potential. That's why he's actually tiered compared to these other guys who aren't tiered. But I'd be interested to watch, but I'm not really that high on him.
I mean, I can't argue with that. I mean, my tier is similar. I got the Tannehill. I got Baker. I got Joe Burrow.
Get it.
And I got Jared Goff. First, I'm going to touch on Tannehill. Listen, he was great last year, right? He was a very efficient quarterback last year. They don't throw the ball enough there. It's not going to change. Like, they're not going to change who they are as a team. Mm-hmm. I've seen firsthand when there's a new quarterback that's under center, teams get lit up a little bit. I mean, they play differently. They play with a fire. I think that happened last year with Tannehill. Tannehill, we saw kind of what he was in Miami. I'm not going to hold that against him. Like, Miami is just where you go to die, or at least was before this year. Who knows with Tua? But before this year, if you were a player in Miami, you wanted to get out. I mean, we literally heard players that, like, there was like a mass exodus from Miami. So Tannehill there, like, I feel like we need to at least realize that he was a fine quarterback, but I don't know if he's a great quarterback. He's going to get overdrafted. I would personally avoid him just because being honed in on Derrick Henry all year, he was on my fantasy team, the offense runs through Derrick Henry. There's going to be a sophomore year for A.J. Brown. They lost Tajay Sharp. Jonnu Smith, I don't know if is he good? I don't think he is.
He's a Titans tight end. He's good sometimes, enough for you to think you could start him, and then he burns you.
Like, Jonnu Smith does nothing for me. I was told 2 years ago he needs to be on my team forever because he's going to be great. I got squat out of Jonnu Smith. Like, their offense is ground and pound, tough defense. So, like, just look at Vrabel and then think, are they going to pass the ball a lot? No, just look at him as a human. Like, my man said he would cut his testicles off. Like, he's hard-nosed. He's a hard-nosed football guy. This is how they play. Like, he sees it. He's a middle linebacker. Like, he knows how to play football. He knows what's efficient. Derrick Henry's the most efficient thing they got. And if Derrick Henry isn't efficient and Derrick Henry is an issue, they're going to force Tannehill to throw to guys like Corey Davis who disappeared. Yeah. Like, I don't love Tannehill.
No,
but
he's a guy.
If
he's a guy you're somebody, it's good. He's a guy you're chasing points from last year with. He's a huge potential guy for that. You're chasing what he was last year, and now he got a contract, so he's feeling good. And who knows? I mean, who knows what's going to happen? He's not a risk though. If you draft Tannehill as your QB1, you better take another quarterback after, or you're just streaming the position. And a lot of people do that as a strategy. And he's the perfect candidate to start with if you're trying to stream. Take Tannehill, roll with it, see what happens. Maybe he's got a good early schedule. Test it out. If you like him, you like him. If you don't, you drop him. No one's going to scream at you. So
also, I'd like to touch on the fact that I don't have Kirk Cousins in my top 5 tiers.
Not in mine either.
Their offense isn't a passing offense. Like, I know they drafted Justin Jefferson. Like, honestly, a solid comp for Justin Jefferson is an inside Adam Thielen. Like, I understand why they did it. Like, he's a solid slot receiver. I mean, you can't argue with production. He was great in college. The thing is with Kirk is I don't know, like, what they're going to actually use him with. Like, they've got Dalvin Cook. Like, I don't love that offense.
Mm-hmm.
Rudolph's ancient. I don't know what Adam Thielen's going to do without Stephon Diggs on the outside. Personally, I like Adam Thielen as a human. I like Adam Thielen as his story coming up, his breakout. But Adam Thielen isn't the same Adam Thielen we saw where he was going for 100 yards every single week. After that streak, he was like wide receiver, like 28 or something. I forget what
he was
like I tweeted it. Like he's a fine wide receiver. But I don't know what he's going to do without Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs, to me, was by far more talented than Adam Thielen.
Yeah.
His route running is impeccable. I know that like sometimes he had mental lapses, both by lashing out and just dropping passes. That's fine, right? But they're going to change their offense. I mean, Zimmer's still the head coach there. There's still going to be a Minnesota Vikings offense. Like, it's going to be like they chew clock in the first quarter. Like, it's brutal to watch. Like, and Kirk Cousins, he doesn't do it for me. Like, there's going to be games where he's great, right? Like, you can clip this, it's fine. Like, you can let me know that I think Kirk Cousins stinks. It's fine.
Oh, I'm not going to say anything. If anything, your fine analysis has changed my opinion on him. He might move down a tier.
Like, I don't know. I just believe that, like, their offense isn't going to be as high flying as it was in previous seasons. Plus, they're not going to get 3 touchdowns out of Stephon Diggs against my Philadelphia Eagles this year, so that will definitely hurt Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, what a monster game! What a monster game!
He was on my team, and like it was just like heartbreak and elation at the same time.
Yeah. All right. Well, those are our top 5 tiers. Me and Ryan's both. We'll take some screenshots of those and link them down below. But like I said earlier, if you want a chance to win this JuJu Smith-Schuster awesome signed mini helmet, all you gotta do is subscribe to the channel and follow the instructions below. There's a couple other things you have to do, and you'll be in that drawing. And I didn't mention it earlier, but we're going to announce the winner on our May 21st video, which will be next Thursday, and we're going to announce it during the video sometime. So you're not going to want to miss that video to see if you won. If you won, congratulations. I mean, I hope I win. I don't know if I qualify, but I definitely want this thing. Like I said, subscribe to the channel. If you like our content, like the video, leave a comment, get involved with our community here on YouTube. We definitely appreciate it. Follow us on Twitter at ClimbThePocket. Follow Ryan at BootlegFantasy, me at Steve 2.0. And go over to climbthepocket.com to check out a bunch of articles. We got them flowing this offseason. The team is rolling. We're giving you lots of good advice to help you have the perfect fantasy football draft come August and September. So you're not going to miss any of that stuff. Ryan, thanks for talking today. We definitely had a good time. Our next video is going to be ranking those running backs. Everyone loves those, so you're not going to want to miss that video for that giveaway next week. Thanks for stopping by.